squiggles you've made. What colour there? Pretty. Yeah.
So now, we're going to present that with the problems that every group has found or identified in the current society, whether it's at a local, national or global level. And then we'll pick all these bits in and we'll compile them all together into a big list that we can then work from as we start going away and reflecting on what the problems are. Once every group has laid out all their problems, we'll probably find there's quite a bit of crossover. We're then going to start the consensus pyramid where we talk about the solutions and the pillars for what our new ideal paradise of a society will look like. Go. So,
we had already before here, it's not just local, national, international, but also personal.
okay.
Hi guys. Okay, the first thing we put up was capitalism, and as an economic system that it doesn't work. We've got another one of weapons of mass destruction, climate change, big for us, materialism, distribution of resources, both local, nationally and globally. Power imbalance, that all people aren't getting a voice, and inequality. We've got now privatisation and greed, emphasis on individualism, meat consumption and just consumption, the 1%, undue influence by advertising, which works a lot with the consumption, oppression, the division and fragmentation of society and communities, profit motives behind health and social legislation, income equality, education, and all the things that go with that regarding user pays and what our children are being taught, overfishing, apathy, following orders blindly when we were talking about decision makers and the people that carry out their decisions, a focus on economic growth at the expense of people and the environment,
I can't just do that.
inequality, prejudice, monopolies like Fonterra, and a loss of biodiversity. So, the next people.
We started out with 4 categories basically of human rights problems, poverty and income inequality problems, environmental problems, and problems around war. Globally, we found things like gender issues around women's rights, gay rights, transgender rights, issues around education access and equality, individualisation of citizens and communities leading to dysfunctional communities, access to medical treatment and pharmaceutical products, and tied in with that at a global level, patents on indigenous herbs and plants. Putting those ones into national issues, we had labour rights, aggregation of property ownership, suppression of dissent by states. Coming into more local issues in human rights, price of housing and land, and a very specific local need for social housing and public transport. Issues like slavery and human trafficking, displacement and refugees. We looked at destruction of rainforests and how that affects both the flora and fauna and the human population of those areas. Contamination of oceans and overfishing, resource depletion, we basically saw as global.
Kia ora people. We started doing all the problems and stuff, and I probably can't add too many more than has already been said. The only ones that I can really add is just the whole fractal reserve system, and that our most societies are built on debt, which is, you know, it's designed to fail. And we also talk quite in depth about the education system and how it's a lot about competition. And from this education system, it's mainly left-minded people that reach high positions, and then kind of the system never changes because of this. And to be honest, most of our conversation was about solutions, and just a few of the things that we're talking about were just putting in more kind of making more of a community feel amongst suburbs and things like this, with community hubs, more community gardens, using space that's kind of just sitting there looking ugly and turning it into gardens, and you know, a place for people to do some legal graffiti, make all that sort of stuff a bit more acceptable. And yeah, creating these type of things, which will hopefully bring us together and then back to the land. We also talked about, I think they've done this in Australia, making it compulsory to, with every new house built, to put in solar panels and grey water systems and that type of shit. And then, what's that? Alright, well I'm about to bounce anyways, but okay, yeah, sweet as, pass it on then.
Well, I guess as this is moving around the circle, we may cover the same things again, but I'll start with the local issues. Number one is fluoridation of the water. That's still happening in some towns, which is basically forced medication, so that should stop. And the general prices of goods and living costs locally, it's very expensive here in Wellington. Moving on to national, going over the debt-based monetary system, that's what we have. We have a fractional reserve monetary system, so perhaps a review of that needs to take place, which could coincide with misallocation of taxes or the justification of the tax system. I know you said we're looking at solutions soon, but perhaps a review of tax system could fall under that. Issue of our own currency. Lack of clarification on our sovereignty, lack of binding constitution, a poor education system, or disparity between the classes within the education system, and lack of public democracy in our country. And going on to global, we've got the war on drugs going on. Wealth distribution is the problem. Outsourcing, where the countries are outsourcing when they could be hiring their own people. Slave wagery, environmental change, war, poverty, energy, reliance on fossil fuels, our global health system, and law, and value and reliance, I guess, on the system, status quo. That's what we've come up with.
Mic check! Mic check! Mic check! Mic check! Mic check! Mic check! I'm going to use the people's microphone. I'm going to use the people's microphone to be brief. To be brief. And to re-engage everybody. And to re-engage everybody. I may say stuff that's been said before. I may say stuff that's been said before. So bear with me. So bear with me. On the national level, we came up with the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement. Which will in effect rob us of our sovereignty. By tying us in with laws of other countries. On a similar note, we thought there was too much foreign ownership. General resource shortage and poor distribution was a problem. Across the globe also, ordinary democratic channels such as elections are not working.
I'm just going to go over the local things, and Sladen's going to go over the national and global issues. Locally, we found that the local government was focusing on building things like highways and transportation initiatives that are along, for an example, based on unsustainable fossil fuel transport. Another local issue we found was the changes occurring at Victoria University in regards to the complete lack of consultation in regards to any major changes that the university is making. Also the effect of VSM on local educational institutions. We also talked about the lack of community in Wellington and the isolation and marginalisation of individuals and certain communities within the wider community. We also talked about a lack of space for creative expression. It's something that needs to be addressed.
Hey guys, I'm just going to keep this really short and easy. So all these problems that we talked about boil down to two factors: resources, distribution and management, and monetary systems, right? Now the biggest problem that we talked about is that the elite know about this, the researchers know about this, solutions are there and have been used to rescue humankind many, many times, but yet the elites like to ignore it and not let people know about it. And it's not even embedded in the education system. So that's all I got to say.
Hello. Is that okay? Does it look like that? All good? Again, I'm going to mention we're probably going to repeat things, but I think that's sort of the idea, that we actually repeat the things so we can get an idea of how many times it comes up as well. So I apologise for repeating. Just as I said earlier, we came up with a fourth category, which is personal. That personal one actually does tie into a lot of these things. So I'm just going to read these out. Essentially, some of these things are categorized as both local, or all three categories, or all four categories in some cases, which is the local, national, and global, and personal. So I'm not going to categorize them too much in those categories. I'm just going to read them off. Unsustainability, education, basically the narrowing of the children's desire to just focus on wealth, the content of the education, and also the propaganda that can be put into the education system, so basically feeding the kids propaganda. The distribution of wealth, war, not loving each other enough, hedge money. There's a concept here that I don't know exactly how to express it, but essentially the use of language or clarity of thought being a problem. We're actually struggling to communicate with each other. Fossil fuels, the use of war to ensure energy and security, borders and countries, nationalism, selfishness, political systems based on apathy. That's it, thanks.